course, we've known each other for probably 15 years, maybe more than that. You've mentioned to me in the past that because you sell books in the hallway, face to face, that you have learned what book covers sell. What advice can you give to people who are thinking about designing their own book cover or hiring out an artist to paint it?
So, the top thing I I would do is I'm going to give you two completely bits of contradictory information.
Okay.
But go to a Barnes and Noble, find books like your book, and start taking photographs of the book covers that catch your eyes. Because each genre at any given moment is going to have a genre style of what this book should look like. So a few years back, if you were writing an urban fantasy novel, your cover was going to have, very dark edges. And then, in the center, there'd be a female figure, probably with her back to you looking over her shoulder. And she'd have some tattoo on her back and a sword or a spell book or something in her hand. And it was a very definite style. And if you wanted to write in that genre, the best way to get people to pick up your book would be to have people grab, books that look just like yours, or just look. Your book should be, have a feel to make them think, okay, well, this book is going to be like this book, and that really works much better than I think most average authors would ever, or beginning authors probably have no idea. They're probably thinking, oh, my book should look original and unique and really stand out. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Your book should kind of look like other people's books. So that is one bit of advice. Make your book look like just everybody else's. My counter bit of advice is make your books, your own. One of the things that I do that I never see in bookstores is quite a few of my books will have asymmetrical text where I've got the title slightly off center. So Dragon's Gate Devils, the Devils is off center. The Dungeons, Dragons, Dinosaurs down in the corner. I've got a certain energy to it. So it's not just a central image. That
Can you raise the book up a little bit?
It's more, of a lightning bolt of energy.
Okay.
And I wish I had a copy. I don't have Nobody Gets the Girl, but it was the first book I put out with asymmetrical text, and people just kept grabbing it. And it's just the text is down the side and the figure is off to the other side, and it really seemed like it was something that caught people's eyes. The other thing that I generally do is I just use very clear, large fonts. I want people to be able to read the cover from a good distance away. And this is partially for live in-person marketing where people are 10 feet away walking past my table. I want them to be able to read the book from there. And it's also driven by online shopping where the cover image is usually being seen by people on their smartphone, and you've got, something the size of a postage stamp to convey that cover. And so, big, bold, easily read fonts, are definitely a priority there.
Okay. I got two questions I can think of right offhand based on your going to the bookstore and looking at books, taking photos of their book covers. One is, how often do you need to do that? Because periodically the book covers change at bookstores. Right. Is it like every 3 years or 4 years or every year?
So I refresh my covers from time to time. So there's very few of my books that I put out one cover that never touch it again. I tweak over the years, sometimes quite radically. And I do, it's embarrassing to say as an author, but I can't think of the last time I went into a bookstore and bought a book. So almost any time I go into a bookstore now, I'm browsing books, but I'm just doing research on what seems to be hot. What is facing out versus what is spine out, because it's the books that are facing out are the ones where the publisher has really invested some time and effort in the cover and the design. And I think for a while, there was a trend for very clean, crisp, serif font text. So an example of that would be Bitterwood, the complete collection. Just a very straightforward, easily read, very clean font. And now I'm seeing, it seems like the fonts are all very curly Q. So, every letter is going to be swirling around in this vine-like shape. So I kind of feel like I need to go back and retypeset some of my covers, keep the same art, but aim for that more swirly, fancy font to
Okay.
capture the zeitgeist.
The second obvious question is, most people are going to think, especially now with the coronavirus, that they can do the same just by going to Amazon and looking at book covers there. Can they do that to the same extent, to the same effectiveness as going to an actual bookstore?
I don't. The problem with Amazon now, I think that would have been a good strategy 4 or 5 years ago. But now, if you look, let's say you search dragon books and you go to a page full of dragon books. The very first 3 images you're going to see are going to be sponsored images. And you're not necessarily seeing them because they're popular. You're seeing them because an author is paying money to have Amazon show you those ads. And it's usually, quite often it's a indie author. And I'm not knocking indie authors. I am an indie author. But I've seen quite often what I consider just terrible covers coming up. And then you'll have a list below that of the authentic books, where they're there because people actually read and buy them, and it's driven more by reader action rather than what Amazon is paying to see. But if you keep looking down and you're paying attention, every other book is going to say sponsored product. And so this, and it's not just books. This is happening with everything on Amazon now. Anything I type in, it's a sponsored product. It's the very first thing I'm offered.
Yeah, toasters and blenders and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are just, I look at it, it's like, this isn't what I want even remotely. I search for a lot of bike parts. And, also I'll look for a bike chain and it will pop up, bike shorts. And it's like someone has the keyword bike in here and they're offering me a product I don't want. So that's why I wouldn't trust Amazon just to do your cover research. I mean, it doesn't hurt. You always can go and look and capture some ideas. And I would say also, if you just looked up the list of dragon books, would be one thing. If you clicked on like Game of Thrones and then went and sorted your ranks, it'll have like a listing for it as to what rank it is as epic fantasy. It's probably going to be number 1, 2, or 3. And if you click on that, you get a bestsellers list of the top 20 books showing up on one page. And these are, authentically books that people are buying and reading, and you could just scan those top 20 and get a feel. But even there, it's tricky because the most important thing about Game of Thrones isn't the cover art or the font, it's the name George R.R. Martin on it. The same is true with Stephen King. You could put out a book that was just a pure black and white cover, black background, Stephen King book for the title,
or a white album from the Beatles.
Yeah, it will turn out to be the top selling book in its category, for when it's released. So So that's the issue about, the very top of the list isn't being driven by the covers, it's being driven by the author names. So you kind of have to get down into like what's in the 20th to 50th percentile, and that's where you'll find the genre books that are representing the real meat of the genre, that where people are reading them because they are epic fantasy, and they can still have author loyalty, but it's the covers that are selling the book, because the second and third tier fantasy authors, even people who are fans of the genre might not know the names of the authors that they're reading.